3 Big 12 contenders left out of the AP poll, but as the last 3 out, and the Texas Tech Red Raiders are right there, but I believe they're underrated. This is a Locked On Big 12, Locked On Texas Tech crossover.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy August, everybody. It is football season. We are just days away from Kansas State, Iowa State kicking things off in Ireland. I'm Drake Toll from Locked On Big 12, America's #1 Big 12 podcast. That is Chris Level of Locked On Texas Tech. And today, the AP poll, released yesterday, is one of the polls of all time. I think it's a little bit better than the coaches poll. We will get to the 3 that were ignored or left off. I say ignored. They were in seemingly everybody's top 25, but off the table. And then I think Texas Tech is maybe the most underrated Big 12 team going into 2025. Speaking of the Red Raiders, oil money, NIL, another 5-star in the doors. The defensive tackle, #1 player in the country on some of these sites. Incredible what's happening there. How is it? Why is it? And we'll finish with BYU or Texas Tech. Who is the big dog? We hear a lot about NIL from both. #1 overall players, 5 stars from both. 2 programs, elite in this conference. If you hit subscribe, we get to keep our jobs. Level, I know that Texas Tech and that whole conversation, them being underrated in my book, is one thing that we that I want to get to. But just initial reaction of BYU, Utah, and Baylor being the first 3 out of the AP poll.
Typical, not surprising. I think, this is a league. We know this, that not enough respect is given for some of the parity or anything like that. But you could have shuffled, other than Arizona State, you could have shuffled some of the other teams that we're talking about here. The other 3 that were ranked and the 3 that weren't, put them in a different order, nobody would have batted an eye. And that's kind of where it's at. But I thought it awfully ironic or humorous that the Big 12 had 26th, 27th, and 28th. So the top 28 teams in the country, that's 25% of those. What is that? 7 out of the 28. 25% come from the Big 12. That's not bad.
Yeah, Shehan Jayaraj tweeting that the Big 10 had 6. So the depth of this conference shows through in that. You just don't get the fancy number next to your name. But at the very least, you would expect now, if BYU is able to win early games, Baylor, Utah, the exact same thing in the non-conference, they'd be the first ones to move up, though we know the loser of Kansas State, Iowa State likely moves out entirely. So you're going to be bounced once. There's nothing you can really do about it. Texas Tech. We've
been set up. They did this on purpose. Of course, they included those 2, so one of them could get squeezed. But yeah, by September 1, you're going to go from 4 ranked teams, down to 3 for sure, almost guaranteed.
Yeah, Texas Tech sitting in the top 25 is unfamiliar territory in the last couple of decades for the Red Raiders. Joey McGuire has walked through the doors and been better than what Tech experienced under Cliff Kingsbury or Matt Wells, for sure. And this year, to me, I keep saying it, is kind of the put up or shut up. This is must win because of the investment that Tech has put into football. You can't be given the keys to such a nice vehicle and then crash it or run it off the side of a cliff. Being in the top 25, sitting at 23, do you feel as though one of the most talented rosters in the country, the most talented in the Big 12, is being ignored with Texas Tech?
To be perfectly honest, I wasn't going to be surprised if this poll came out and Texas Tech wasn't listed amongst the top 25. These things they're flawed. I think it's harder to try to rank teams now than ever before just because so many of the parts absolutely change. And it's pretty clear that enough of the writers felt pretty strongly about what Texas Tech did in the portal, even though they haven't seen these guys play together, not one time. Joey talked a lot about before the bowl game last year, kind of the meaningless game versus Arkansas there in Memphis, Tennessee. We really need to win it because it will set us up to be ranked next year. Well, you lost it. Your backups weren't as good as Arkansas's backups, but I guess it didn't matter. But I've seen everything from Tech being projected like in the 15, 16 range to unranked. So I just wasn't sure what to expect. But I think the coaches poll last week listing Texas Tech at 24 you maybe felt like, okay, you would be squeezed into this AP poll, and you were. But, yeah, this is very unfamiliar territory for Texas Tech. I mean, going back to 2008, the last time you were in both of these polls in the preseason, and that year everybody knew it, and you knew why, and you had a really good year the year before, and everybody was back, and all the things. But, yeah, this is a bit different for sure.
Is this a little bit of a popularity contest? And maybe even more so than that. It feels like to me, no one's talking about Utah. They were 5-7. And then a couple months ago, Joel Klatt maybe said Utah's going to win the Big 12. Is it the herd mentality? Somebody else in the wide sphere hears that. They think, oh, I'm going to be smart too. I'm going to put it's a little confusing why Utah is sitting right there in that top 28 to me.
It's funny because everybody's got an outlet or a poll, and there's writers, and there's all the folks that are covering this stuff. And I've seen everything. It's like 2 to 3 week stretches because Baylor has had a lot of love in stretches. Utah has had a lot of love in stretches. Arizona State has been fairly common. Kansas State was getting a lot of love in stretches. But I think there was this Utah phase where it's like, whoa, Vegas odds.
Yeah.
They're showing up in some of these polls, and like what? And they kind of rode that wave for about 3 to 4 weeks. And so I don't know what all this matters. It's the time it's the time we spend, when games aren't being played, and you get talked into this, talked into that. But I do think Utah is going to be a handful. Ironically enough, that is Texas Tech's first conference game. It's in week 4 up in Salt Lake. I think that will be a massive game. That's where you find out what weight class everybody's in. Is the new quarterback and the new OC going to fix everything up in Salt Lake? Is Kyle Whittingham, is he still got it? Or did some of those losses they had on the defensive side of the ball going to hurt them? Is Texas Tech for real? It's very difficult to win up in Bryce Eccles. They had all these games last year where there were close losses, and BYU had a lot of close wins. So Which way is it? I mean, that's kind of how this thing will go down. But yeah, Utah, I was expecting to see them sneak into this poll, if I'm being perfectly honest with you.
Wow, it's again herd mentality to me. It's the Illinois thing. Where we weren't really talking about Illinois, but the second someone puts them in there way too early, top 25, others jump on the band. Utah lost to Arizona last year. Are the writers to Houston? Are the writers thinking about that when they're building their AP polls? And maybe they believe Devin Dampier is the answer for the Utes. Maybe he is. Coming up, Texas Tech. The answer has been money. That's there. They've got that covered. How and as the 5 stars roll in, will they continue to? This is the Locked On Big 12, Locked On Texas Tech crossover. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. A couple of weeks ago, I wanted to go see Tyler Childers play a concert. And the problem is I'm like 48 hours out. I realized, shoot, he's going to be like Virginia Beach. And it's not that far from me if I want to go see it. But if I want to go see it, I'm going to need to get on tickets fast. But you don't have to. With Game Time, the more you wait, sometimes the more you benefit. Up to 60% off killer last-minute deals. Tired of endless scrolling, trying to find the best deal? Game Time has zone deals that pick the best seat for you. Panoramic seat view. And with their Game Time guarantee, they got your back on cancellation protection and more. Also, no hidden fees. That's the best part. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices. That is guaranteed with Game Time. Chris Level of Locked On Texas Tech. They've done it again. 2027, 5-star, LaDainian Guyton commits to Texas Tech. Benedictine Christian, right in my backyard here in Savannah, Georgia. The Red Raiders, not just in the transfer portal, number 1 class in the country per some outlets, but now also in the high school ranks. Is it the NIL? Is it the momentum? I mean, again, you said it earlier. This is a team that lost the Liberty Bowl to Arkansas last year. It's not like the results on the field have been elite necessarily, but they look to be with guys like this in the door.
I think the way that when the rules changed and NIL and now you got rev share and all that, I think Texas Tech, the blanket aspect here is that they have viewed college athletics as changing to a talent acquisition business. Yeah. And so they have tried to take advantage of every loophole or advantage that they could have with using money, or now they've because how they get Guyton. First of all, they recruited his quarterback. Stephen Cannon has been committed to Texas Tech. He is a year older than Guyton, classified a year different. So they get Guyton on campus, and then I kept hearing like, man, I think this is likely. But what they've done is, and every school could be doing this, but they were like, okay, the NFL pays offensive tackles and edge rushers more than every other position other than quarterback. Yes, receivers get paid and all that, but we have a hard time getting these big people. We go get a QB, we can get good receivers, which they have, but we have a hard time getting the real quality big people on the edge. And so they have decided with Felix Ojo, who was on around July the 4th, and now LaDainian Guyton, let's guarantee them a pretty significant number when it comes to rev share, and then let's give them a third year. And like with Ojo, Texas and Ohio State, they didn't want to guarantee the third year. Georgia right now doesn't really want to get involved paying this much to a true freshman because they've got so many other upperclassmen. It's kind of the curse and the blessing that they're the top end of the roster is so good. They didn't want to. They don't want to, earmark enough of these funds right now to go to a guy that hasn't been proven. It's a gamble, but if you're Ojo, if you're Guyton, it's 3 years at a really good number, and Texas Tech can then say, we have got these two positions with two of the best in the country on lockdown. So, I'm not saying it's right, but this is how they felt like this is where we could have a bit of an advantage. And so they're swinging.
Couple things. This feels a bit like an experiment
yeah.
Where Miami is going for the 5-star quarterback out of the transfer portal, and Georgia is going to go poach the best guy from Western Kentucky. And even a TCU or a Baylor, you're seeing them still attack the transfer portal. Go, yeah, they'll pick up the 3-star, the 4-star from Franklin, but they're particularly looking at the guy who didn't work out at Arkansas to add to the roster and play at a TCU or Baylor. Texas Tech's putting a lot of eggs in a basket that most universities, like you said, they won't venture into. Alabama doesn't need to sign 20 of the top 100 kids out of high school when they can get a third-year guy from Western Kentucky who's ready to go today, and they understand already he can function in our system and in college football. It is, we don't know yet, but I wonder if the risk is worth it.
So here's the rationale. First of all, I do think Texas Tech will still dabble in the portal because their recruiting, their portal class is large in part 100% third or fourth year guys that have been very productive everywhere they've been. This is why they were taken. They didn't go bring in potential. Okay. But now that the rules have changed a bit, there's maybe not going to be quite as much movement in the portal. There will be some. Everybody, the money, you can't just throw it around like you were. So they're trying to take it. And I asked somebody this question. I'm like, okay, the risk here, it may cause your overall team not to be quite as deep because you've allocated so much money to a few players and positions here. But what happens? 5-stars bust all the time. This is normal. What happens if you swing and miss here and you're kind of stuck? And the answer I got back was, look, everybody in the country offered these two guys. We've evaluated, we've looked at everything we possibly could. I'm willing to put my head on the pillow and sleep well at night if one of them doesn't work out, because this was a risk to us worth taking. And I think they view it as, even if they're a bust or not as good as what everybody would have thought, their floor is still pretty high. However, I think that they choose to view it like, what if we did go get the next this or the next that? And now we've elevated the league. We've elevated our position in the league, and we've got elite, left tackle and elite edge rusher. Like, look out. Other folks in the league won't have anything close to that. So I think they felt it was a risk worth taking. Why
now? Texas Tech, NIL's been a thing. We've been around here for 4 or 5 years in this NIL era, and the oil still, it wasn't just discovered yesterday. Why 2025 for the fan base, the donors, the coaching staff, the university, whoever, to finally get on board?
It's funny you asked that because like Texas Tech with the first year of NIL, like the year or two prior to last December, I think they spent less than $1 million in total and brought in 12 players or something. And I think they realized midway through, like, boy, had they screwed up.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and so I think it just took a bit to realize this is the way this is going to go. And I think it took some of your money folks to go, we've got to get ahead of this. We're a bit behind right now. And it was last July, August-ish, before last season, when they really started trying to formulate a plan for the upcoming December. Because I think even then they realized, okay, this is the way the rules are.
Yeah.
But you're right. The folks that have donated to this project, and there's been Cody gets he's clearly coordinated it all, but there's 6 or 7 people that have donated 7 figures plus to the cause. And I think it took Cody to kind of also coordinate and organize. But then last year they got so close to the Big 12 title game. This is motivated money is what it is. You haven't been in Arlington. To be frank, I think some around here would tell you that's embarrassing. Like, you know, everybody has been, you know, to play for it or won it, and you haven't even been invited to the party. And I think you're trying to. So there was a slow build there, but I think Joey is a connector. You know, I think that's been part of it too, this steady incline and all that. And I think so these people went to Joey. It wasn't the other way around. What do you need? Okay, so if we give you this, what kind of, you know, what can we expect to get back? And then it just kind of kept, you know, and now here we are. Because I think that originally it was, let's add 8 to 10 guys this past December. It ended up at 22, and then David Bailey, maybe the highest profile one, was like 23rd, and that was in March. But it's like they just kept going.
I loved him when he was at Baylor. I think he is the perfect fit for Texas Tech, the Big 12, old ball coach, the high school gritty ball coach. Why? When Ryan Day, who's not the old ball coach, wins a national championship with the Corvette of rosters, why is the trust in Joey McGuire to be that still not just old ball coach, but also GM type to handle this amount of money and this amount of pressure?
Yeah, I mean that's fair, and I don't. That's why I'm very careful to make sure I explain. It was donors going to Joey and James Blanchard and the people saying, what do you need? These folks were motivated, and then they're like they stayed motivated. Joey feels this pressure. I think he wants to be at a place where there's some expectations, not maybe you go to a bowl game and all that. He's got the most. Him or Baron Morton have the most pressure of anybody in Lubbock, Texas this year. Yeah. That's just the way it works. It comes with the title, the paycheck, the position that you play. And right, wrong, or indifferent, one or both of those guys will be blamed for a lot of what goes on here if you don't get to where you want to go. He gets it. And did you go for it on 4th down too many times or not enough? Did you hire the wrong coordinator this year? I mean, whatever. People will come up with we know that. But he handles it. He's a perfect modern day college football coach. Slow. Some have been slow to adapt. I mean, they were talking about NFL type salary caps 2 years ago around here, and we're trying to stay ahead and maybe a little slow on the NIL game, but they now have jumped to the forefront in some instances. But he's just a connector. I don't know any other way to explain it. He's a perfect, you know, hype man versus juice guy versus culture guy. And he's the same to the $1 billion donor that he is to the janitor and in the football complex. And it doesn't matter what time of day you get him. And he's unique there, but he's having to, you know, put all these teams together like all these guys are quickly. And I think he's perfectly suited for it. Like the high school coach, that you're having to, you know, you're losing a bunch of guys and all those things. So I don't know if I've answered ultimately what you were asking, but that's the best way I can answer it, and where I'm coming from here and know him and know all the people that he's dealing with here that made all this happen.
It is. I love it and hate it. I love that it's Joey McGuire. I hate that you put that amount of pressure because of the price tag on a guy like that. I mean, 10 years ago, he gets to be Willie Fritz. He gets to just coach and just be a really good coach. Now it becomes a lot tougher if it's Joey McGuire was the best coach in the Big 12, wasn't the best GM in the Big 12, and that's why it doesn't work. That's where I get frustrated with where we've gone with college football. Coming up, BYU and Texas Tech. This is it. This is what we wanted at Big 12 Media Days. When Brett Yormark asks for brands, we've got them. This is Locked On Big 12, Locked On Texas Tech. Chris Level with Locked On Texas Tech. Brett Yormark goes to the podium. He's asked a question about parity at Big 12 Media Days, and he says it's good. Everybody in the league can be good. 16 beating 1 to win the Big 12 championship, go to the playoffs, and fight for a national championship is awesome. But we need elite programs. We need 2 or 3 elite programs. BYU, Texas Tech. Is that your 2? Have we found our 2 based on commitments, recruiting, NIL, everything you were seeing right now?
These 2 brands, if you will, have definitely created the most buzz in the last 6 to 9 months. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Whether you deserve the buzz, whether you are accused of this, whether you have spent that, I don't think there's any doubt that you've been 2 programs that have been in the news cycle for all kinds of reasons more than anybody else. And it's like, which one is the bigger brand and all that? I guess, is there more believers in the world, or is there more oil in the world? I don't know. If you want to get to, but I have felt like that of the 8 schools that have joined the Big 12 in this last 2 years, BYU far and away has been the best addition. It's not even close. Even over Arizona State, who just won it, and they were in the league for 1 year. I just think everything that BYU has brought to the table, eyeballs, buzz, success, in a variety of sports, I think that is outweighed everybody's expectations. And I think this is the Tech fan years ago, in like around 10 or 11, did not want, and Baylor may have felt the same way, don't let TCU in the Big 12. Don't do it, because they're only going to benefit, and look out. And this is exactly why some on the outside did not want BYU to have this status, because look out. And they've elevated in all aspects. And now the rules are they're allowed to spend and all these things. And I think they haven't shied away from it. They've leaned into it. They've been accused of various things and tampering, all this silliness. So I'm here for it. I think that's Texas Tech's biggest home game of the season this year is BYU. And yes, Oklahoma State comes here. Yes, Kansas comes here. Yes, UCF comes here. But BYU, far and away, your biggest home game of the year. And I think BYU deserves a lot of credit for that.
It is built a 1-2 punch that you can almost, because there is comparison, there is growth. If it was just Texas Tech and, Kennedy goes out there, makes $1 million, brings you to the national championship, and A.J. DeBonta didn't exist, there is no comparison in the Big 12. There is no conversation of who else is doing this so differently or with such fervor on the money side that it's turning heads. Colorado a little bit, but it's less NIL with them and more Deion Sanders being Deion Sanders. He's a stalwart within himself. That's a bit different than the conversation being had here of the institution itself fully committing to the modern era of college football, college softball, and the like. Is competition good? I mean, am I wrong there, or is this the Big 12 evolving in front of our eyes because 2 programs decided to do what no one else has yet?
And this saying is rising tides raise all boats. I think that, like, in some ways, because the reason I single out BYU is because it's not, they weren't great the first year in football. They were last year. They won 11 games and all that, but it's what you're doing in basketball. It's what you're doing in some of the other sports too. This is program wide. Here, this isn't just a football, portal class. You spent a significant amount of basketball last year. You went to the Elite Eight. When they did the same thing in softball, they went to the World Series, played the final game. All 3 of those programs are expected to be very much nationally relevant again this year. And I think that the BYU kind of leaned into the football aspect, but yeah, you mentioned the basketball aspect for BYU. I mean, I was out there last year broadcasting a game when Tech played there and at the Marriott Center, and there's 18,000 people in there. It's one of the best football environments I've been at as well too. I mean, it's like they got it. I was joking. It's like they don't really, it was a figure of speech, but it's like they got all these kids locked up all week and they let them out and give them some sugar on a Saturday night, and look out. I mean, it was crazy on a Saturday night. They're handing out ice cream to the visiting crowd and everybody's chomping down on those donuts and everything like that. But no, it was a fun, unique environment. And I think that's also what factors in, because not every place in the Big 12 is crazy. Not everybody in the Big 12 is like it's a scary place to play or it's going to be sold out no matter what. And I think BYU has a component of that. And I think that's a bit of a difference maker. But I think competition and the willingness to spend, the willingness to build, and all that stuff, it should put pressure on other people. Hey, you better keep up, because there is another shift coming. There is another shift coming with these leagues and all those kinds of things. But no, I love I love all of it, because Utah's feeling it. I mean, they're feeling the pressure of watching BYU do what they're doing. I think that's good.
Yeah. Texas Tech, conversely, I mean, you wax poetic there about BYU. What makes Texas Tech different? Why is it Texas Tech that got to become a big dog?
Well, because people have thought this is a push your chips to the middle of the table scenario. I mean, they are not going away. Their money's not going away. Yes, the rules have changed, and we'll see if they stay that way. But they view this as we have to be at our best right now, because there is another shift coming. I think their leadership feels very strongly about that. They are, they're fighting for enrollment. They're fighting for the city of Lubbock. You've got all these big picture thought processes. And luckily for the athletics fans out there, for the folks that are big fans of football and basketball at Texas Tech, the leadership feels like this is the front porch. We all agree here. This is what must be really good. If you want enrollment to be at a certain level, if another shift does happen and we want to maintain our status of being a have and not a have not, all that stuff. So yes, they're willing to spend outside NIL or whatever they're allowed to do, and try to maintain some buzz. And there's a lot of oil folks around here. Oil and gas industry has been very good to Texas Tech. They just put a couple of pump jacks, painted them red, white, and black out there on the football stadium. They're 20,000 pounds a piece. They're leaning into this deal. I'm here for it, because they've been made fun of and criticized and pointed at and all that, but they're just leaning into it now. Like, this is what you say we are. Then guess what? This is what we are. Yeah, but those oil wells are going to keep rolling, man.
I think so. It seems like it.
Yeah, it seems like it. We'll see. Let's see. You come up dry one day, and that can happen too.
These are the two teams. I have Texas Tech squarely at Arlington this year. Finally, the curse is broken. And I think BYU's got a really good shot too, because of the defensive production back. And offensively, Chase Roberts is going to be a big leader, and their O-line's pretty solid too. Both programs should have decent, and their schedule's stupid easy. Like, if you're a BYU fan, that's not a knock. Your schedule's just easy. Like, this is good. You want that. So I think those are my two in the Big 12 title game. We're getting close. Chris Level, where can folks find more of your work?
Locked On Texas Tech, man. Me and Casey Cowan knock it out on a daily basis. Occasionally, I chop it up with my man Drake on a Thursday night too, when I can fit it in the old schedule. But yeah, man, enjoyed it. It was recently. I might be a day off here. It was recently my 3-year anniversary with the Locked On, the old network.
Wow,
so, yeah,
really?
Yes, 3 years.
I must be pushing like 5 years here. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, how about that?
That's great. Chris Level, Locked On Texas Tech. Thanks for taking the time today.
You bet. Keep hope alive out there.
No doubt. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day across over with Texas Tech and Dose Grande.